Hello and welcome to WMLT News. I'm Courtney Vanatter.
And I'm Derek Klein. To help alleviate the amount of graffiti around the Huntington area, West Virginia delegates have proposed legislation to make it a state crime punishable by up to 3 years in prison. However, this is sparking debate between officials. Opponents have many arguments against the bill, saying the punishment doesn't fit the crime and that the bill would only increase the problem of overcrowding prisons. However, many say that it is unfair that local business owners in Huntington are responsible for paying the damages of local vandalism. They feel that the perpetrators need more than a slap on the wrist and a small fine. If the bill is passed, first offense graffiti convictions would result in 24 hours prison time and a fine. Longer jail sentences would result on the second offense, and the third offense could result in a 3-year prison sentence. Mountain State University is being sued by a Huntington licensed practical nurse who claims the school misrepresented the nursing program's accreditation when it sought her enrollment. Amy C. Pack's lawsuit claims that Pack wasn't informed about a pending investigation by the West Virginia Board of Examiners and Registered and Professional Nurses. The lawsuit also claims that President Charles Polk has already been notified for the problems at the time that she had applied. The board revoked the accreditation in February. Pack took classes at the program's Tay Valley location, and she is seeking unspecified economic damages. Last month, Acting President Jerry Ice said that Mountain State is working on improvements to maintain its overall accreditation.
Now, here with this week's Concord Minute, Dalton Paul.
Thanks, guys. The Concord University bell tower is awaiting repairs from damage sustained from a lightning storm. The bell tower, known as the Carillon, has not rung for almost a year now and may cost up to $10,000 to repair. Concord University hosted the CU Sports Day for children ages 8 to 13 years old. The event allowed school children to engage in organized sports with rules, instructions, and application. Concord University and the Athens community is still mourning the loss of Lisa Blankenship. She was the Delta Zeta chapter advisor and the cheerleading coach. To many of the students who knew her, she was much more than an advisor or a coach, but more of a mother. Also, Concord University received a bomb threat on March 1st. Students and staff of Concord University were evacuated in a safe and orderly fashion. Thankfully, the Concord University police found no bombs and no one was injured. That's it for the CU Minute. Back to you guys at the desk.
In world news, the United States and other countries agreed on Tuesday to continue talks with Iran regarding its nuclear program. Israel and the United States believe that the country of Iran is working on the development of nuclear weapons. President Obama discussed the possibility of talks in a press conference while also stressing the unprecedented pressure leaders have been placing on the country. Iran also hinting at letting international inspectors visit a military base in Parchin. Parchin has been suspected of being involved in the development of nuclear weapons. Previous talks earlier last year broke down between the UN Security Council and Iran when a disagreement involving sanctions came up. Recent storms could be a sign of worse weather to come. The storm system that hit the United States last week is a rare occurrence for this early in the year and could mean that more storms are on the way. Statistically, March 2nd, when the storm hit with most force, is one of the deadliest March days since 1994. The cause, which could be the changing of the ocean temperatures. The 2011-2012 winter weather was mostly dictated by the La Nina winds, or abnormally cool temperatures in the Pacific Ocean. This phenomenon can account for the warmer winter this year and might account for the recent storms. This year, winter weather has kept the Gulf of Mexico warm and full of moisture. These two variables could greatly increase chances of a storm outbreak. This could mean that this spring the United States could see more storms than usual and of a greater magnitude.
Children are developing more teeth problems and cavities than in previous years. They are having to undergo general anesthesia to treat these multiple cavities from the widespread problem. Pediatric dentist Dr. Jonathan Shinkton quoted, "We have a huge increase in kids going to the operating room and are treating more kids more aggressively earlier. These actions are also preventable by parents practicing proper oral care for their children." Dentists offer a wide amount of reasons to why children suffer from the extensive tooth decay. The growing problems include snacking, sweet drinks, and juice before bed, and lack of knowledge of when to take the children to the dentist. Parents do not enforce regular brushing and do not follow the pediatric dentist's recommendations by making their children's dentist appointments by the age of 1. Stay tuned. We'll return with more WMLT news in just a moment. Welcome back to WMLT News. Expected cuts to Medicare over the next few years may prevent Charleston Area Medical Center from adding to its capacity. CAMC CEO David Ramsey says right now we could use another 80 to 100 beds, but they're unable to borrow the money because reimbursement rates, especially from Medicare, are so poor. The passage of federal health care reform means $150 billion in Medicare cuts over 10 years. For CAMC, the cuts mean $80 billion reduction in Medicare. Reimbursements. Ramey says Medicare pays below costs already, so this is certainly going to be a challenge for CAMC and all hospitals for that matter. This is more of a challenge for the state of West Virginia because of its older population. Ramsey says if cuts to Medicare continue, it could mean fewer hospitals in the state. Recent studies have shown that a certain chemical in soda can cause cancer. The Center for Science Public Interest, or CSPI, are trying to get rid of the caramel color that is used in sodas. These studies have shown that several types of cancer have been linked to the chemical caramel coloring. CSPI Executive Director Michael Jacobson said there are 310 million Americans, and we're saying that about 15,000 of us will develop cancer as a result of the caramel coloring. However, the American Beverage Association issued a statement questioning the CSPI study. Quote, "This is nothing more than CSPI scare tactics," and their claims are outrageous. CSPI fraudulently claims to be operating in the interest of public's health when it is clear its only motivation is to scare the American people. End quote. Was a statement released by the American Beverage Association. The CSPI claimed that Coke and Pepsi are both still safe to drink. And now, with this week's sports, Richard Babbage.
Thanks, guys. Basketball season has come to a close for the Mountain Lions. After a great run in the WVAC tournament by both the men's and the women's teams, the magic has finally run out. Our men's team pushed their way past Ohio Valley and Wheeling Jesuit on their path to the WVAC semifinal game. There, they faced the nationally ranked University of Charleston, who had already beaten Concord 2 times this year. The Golden Eagles jumped out to an early lead in the first half thanks to Xavier Humphrey's 12 points coming off the bench. After trailing 51-34 after 2 quarters, the Mountain Lions began methodically chipping away at the lead and eventually pulled within 9 points. However, that is as close as they would come. The depth off the Eagles' bench proved to be too much for Concord to overcome, as the University of Charleston took the game 89-80. The Lady Lions, too, were in the WVAC semifinals this past week, where they faced Glenville State. The game was a back-and-forth battle throughout, and neither team could claim a victory until less than a second remained in the second overtime. Unfortunately, the Lady Lions' valiant effort was unrewarded. The Pioneers' Kenyelle Goodson was able to bury 2 free throws within 9/10 of a second remaining to pull out the double overtime victory 96-94. That's all for this week. Let's take it back to the desk.
Studies have found that children who are younger in their class are more likely than their older classmates to be diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. According to Dr. E. Jane Garland, a psychiatrist at the University of British Columbia, younger boys were 30% more likely than their older classmates to be diagnosed with ADHD, while younger girls had a 70% greater chance. The findings came from a study more than 900,000 Canadian children ages 6 to 10. It combines with the 2 U.S. studies that found the same thing in 2010. Children can easily be misdiagnosed for ADHD and should be watched inside and outside of the classroom, as well as at least 2 doctor visits before given this diagnosis. The age of the child can be a factor, but is not an instant sign for diagnosis. And now for this week's Ticket or Leave It, Jared Klein.
Thanks, guys. This movie, which came out last weekend, has already beaten out all other movies released so far in 2012 for top earning weekend. Of course, I'm talking about The Lorax. This adorable tale takes an interesting twist on the Dr. Seuss classic about a mysterious onceler who tells a young boy a story about destroying the environment for profit. The movie, which springs off a separate storyline, doesn't move far from the original message. The movie also features some recognizable names, such as Zac Efron and Taylor Swift. The film is sure to be a family favorite and is in theaters now. Another movie that is for an older audience was the action comedy This Means War. The movie features 2 CIA operatives named FDR and Foster, played by Chris Pine and Tom Hardy, who battle it out to win the affection of Lauren, played by Reese Witherspoon. The 2 best friends use their spy skills to keep tabs on their girl and each other. The result is an action-packed romantic comedy you'll be dying to know who she will pick in the end and laughing from the first line. That's all for this week's Ticket or Leave It. Back to you at the desk.
Apple is planning the launch of their new Apple iPad. This will be the 3rd generation of its tablet computer. The new iPad is said to have a Retina display, which will allow the user to not see the individual pixels on the screen. This will be a great new aspect for those who use the iPad for viewing movies. The tablet is also said to be quicker than the old generations, leading to faster search times and functions. The demands for the new iPad have already started, with 30% of the respondents saying that they intend to buy an iPad 3, and 44% of the respondents say that they would not consume any brand of tablet. Apple is expecting to double the 55 million iPads sold as soon as the 3 is released and hits. That's all for WMLT News. I'm Courtney Van Natter.
And I'm Derek Klein. Please tune in again in 2 weeks for more from Concord University.